Before you meet Minterton, before the lighthouse, before Arlen, before any of it, you need to meet somebody else first. And that is Frenicky the fox. And he has a chair in the middle of his forest. That is quite the chair. And he's inviting you to pull up your own chair because he has a story to tell about the Land of Ardithian and why you matter as much as it does. This is Penwondertive, the first book out of 5 from the Predictably Unpredictable Tales from the Land of Ardithian. And I'm going to be reading you the prologue to introduce the series as a whole. And then over the course of the next month, I'm going to be sharing the complete read aloud for the whole book. And I'm excited that you've opted to pull up a chair with me. I do hope that you find a little bit of yourself in the wonder and imagination of these pages. Penwondertive Prologue. And if you were curious, that's Frenicky. He dressed me today, in case you were curious. Chairs are not so unusual for the most part, for we have them and make them and use them for all sorts of reasons in useful and practical ways. But there is a place in between dreams and wishes, between the folds of what is seen and unseen, where a most extraordinary chair sits. And that chair belongs to me, Frenicky the fox. Now, you might just ask, what could be so extraordinary about a chair, especially one that looks quite ordinary in the middle of an average-looking forest? And that would be a rather predictable thing to consider. But as you do, just remember, average-looking as this forest is, looks can be deceiving. What appears usual can be quite unusual in the very best of ways, chairs included. If you have ever walked in the woods, you most likely saw trees, tall and massive ones, low and wide ones, and some that were scraggly and others most grand. Critters of all kinds greeted you, whether you realized you had a welcoming committee or not. And if you weren't careful, you could easily mistake the woods for being rather ordinary, at least as trees and animals go. But in the Land of Ardithian, which now exists just beyond the edge of everything you know, forests, especially my forest, are some of the most remarkable places that ever were, but they almost never were. Ages and memories ago, the world was imperfectly beautiful, yet quite predictable. Humans and animals coexisted. Nature was respected. And most folks looked out for one another and wanted nothing more than to live in peace and harmony. What they wanted and what came to be were two entirely different things. And to this day, I shake my head at how utterly broken it all became. Power and control between imbecilic humans became sought after, and some forgot that loving their fellow man was more important than loving their own success. Ultimately, a terrible event happened that changed history forever. Millions of people perished. Animals were lost, and nature was dealt a horrible blow, especially in the realm of forests. Hope for a bright future for all was bleak and distant. Energy that flowed through the world grew dim until one unexpected sunrise when things began to change. The mighty Flow, which was the source of all energy that moved through the world, became sentient and realized that a second chance needed to be offered if there was any hope for the living to survive. Hope turned out to be our saving grace. Scholars were gathered, the Penwondertive books were created, which held the wisdom and knowledge of beautiful world building, and the Flow attached rare and novel spheres to each book, giving them the power over matter and energy. Collectively, their energy ignited, and the Land of Ardithian was formed as a hidden world within the world. Years went by. Lightways between our world and the broken one were created, and friendships grew between our kind and all kinds. Creativity and imaginations soared. Nature thrived once again, and forests became a haven for tree folk and fine folk. The energy along with the hearts of those who lived in this hidden land showed the Arendaflow that the second chance was worth it. That is, until one particularly broken elder and his family decided they wanted to not simply control the lightways, but the forests and all living things too. Chaos surrounded them. Many Ardithians were harmed. The Ashises seemed to remain one step ahead of the powers that be until 3 young siblings and 1 extraordinary friend fell into the tale most unexpectedly. Arlen was found asleep in my chair. Not a chair at the library or a chair at the church, but my chair in the middle of my not common at all forest. This small detail was almost overlooked, but looks turned out to be deceiving, and she in my chair proved to be exactly the hope the Land of Ardithian needed, whether she knew it or not. At first, the children didn't quite know who they were, or how they belonged to one another, or most importantly, how they could be of any help at all, as they were only children. What they found over time was that being together, regardless of what the world believed was best for them, was everything. And this gave them enough courage to face anything, including becoming heroes. So as you sit in your comfortable chair, the children challenge you with the hard decision to believe in only what you see, which is quite understandable, or choose to believe in a far greater world that exists just beyond the edge of everything you know. And if you ask me, I choose the world beyond the edge of everything, because that is where the imaginary is most spectacular, and the view from my chair most extraordinary. Penwondertive, the Prologue. Pull up a chair for chapter 1 next.